Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode.
Good morning and welcome to Northern Powerhouses Business Success Stories. So we have Paul Ainley, who is Managing Director at We Love Chatter, with us this afternoon. So thank you ever so much for joining us, Paul. We really appreciate time. Thank you. So can I just pass over to you and ask you to introduce yourself properly, and can you tell us a little bit more about you guys, We Love Chatter, and what you do, how you help your clients?
Yeah, no worries. So I'm one of three owners at Chatter, and we are a specialist employer branding agency. So we work with clients predominantly in the private sector, and we're helping them with marketing, communications, branding and advertising, but it's all in relation to their talent. So it's all around employer branding, and essentially what we're helping them to do is to attract and recruit the very best people for their organization, keep hold of them and get the best from them. So we work with clients like Asda, O2, we work with Northern, we work with a whole host of clients, and a lot of them have fairly complex needs when it comes to engaging with their talent, either working across multiple locations or, huge teams or going through big transformation. So yeah, we've been around for 10 years actually. In a few weeks' time, it'll be our 10th birthday. So we're all gearing up for virtual celebrations.
Yeah.
And that time has absolutely flown. And actually, one of the things that we've seen recently is just much more interest from C-suite audiences around how they're perceived as an employer, and how that perception might impact negatively or positively on their brand and their ability to grow their business.
Amazing. So how do you sort of reach out to your clients? I guess previously, one of the companies that I was involved in, I was heavily involved in recruitment, and was very lucky to work with an incredible head of marketing who was incredibly invested in the employer brand and working on employer brand. So it's something that I'm really interested in. I find really intriguing. So do you guys work with a lot of larger businesses, small, medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, we do tend to work with larger organizations, and that's just really because they've got the biggest challenge. Obviously for us, we're 16 people at Chatter. It's so much easier to get your hands around everybody and to kind of talk about where we are as an organization, what's important to us, where we're going. Obviously that gets much more complex the more people are involved and the more complex the business is. So yeah, most of our clients we work with are either well-known or fairly big organizations. I think it's really interesting what you just said about working quite closely in a recruitment role with colleagues in marketing. So I've been in this sort of sector, in this field for 20 years, which is also quite scary. When I first started to work in what was kind of recruitment advertising back then, marketing weren't even aware that HR people were involved in messaging and communication. They weren't interested. It was very difficult to sort of explain how there would be a link between the experience you deliver to candidates and how that might reflect on the brand as a consumer. We're seeing that was already starting to change before we went into COVID, but the acceleration has been massive. I think that one of the things that we've done is we set up some social media monitoring. So we've been monitoring brand sentiment for the FTSE 500, and we've been trying to understand through looking at what news articles are out there, how employer brand or the way that companies have been perceived to treat their employees when things have got tough for them, whether that's had a negative impact on things like share price, on things like their ratings across Glassdoor and other peer-to-peer ratings, whether they're finding it more difficult to recruit, whether customers are talking about them more negatively as a result. Because I think those two things are coming much more closely aligned, that employer brand and consumer brand, and now the best companies, they've got them working hand in hand.
Absolutely. I know that was something that we were always really passionate about. It was the candidate experience to us. They were just as important to us as that experience, regardless of whether they didn't make it past the very first point of the recruitment process or made it all the way through to the end. We wanted it to be a really fantastic experience. They would then spread the word. They would become advocates for our company. And even if they weren't a successful candidate and they didn't join us, we wanted them to say how positive the experience had been. And, that would help to facilitate our growth rather than the experience that you tend to get, I guess, when you're a candidate.
And it is tough, isn't it? I mean, we work with lots of recruitment and resourcing professionals in the clients that we work with. And, I know at the moment that all of them are seeing uplifts in application numbers of, in excess of 100%. So that is a really tough ask, is to think about how you provide that experience. And I think some of the stuff that we do from an employer brand perspective can help with some of that heavy lifting. Yeah. So even if you are going to automate some of those responses, we can look at things like tone of voice and think about how we can write copy in a way which is human and, has some empathy with people at the moment that, that really looking at a situation that's totally changed, probably facing some challenge in their life, and just being a bit human about the way that we deal with candidates in the process.
Brilliant. I could talk about this kind of thing all day.
Me too. I do. That is my job, yeah.
So we've all kind of been going through this time of change. I know it's that people keep using the phrase, and everyone hates it now, this unprecedented period, but we've all been riding the wave. How has it affected you guys doing what you do? How's COVID affected your business?
Well, it was really funny, actually, because last week, one of my colleagues said, she said, you do realise that it's a year now that we sent everybody home, and we said the offices, we were sort of a week before we went into official lockdown, we'd closed our offices. And because we've got the benefit of being a communications business, we'd been able to prepare a little bit. So we were able to say to our people, here is the plan. It's potential, there's a high potential that we're going to have to start working from home at some point in the future. I didn't realize it was going to be, the next day. But this is what it looks like. And then we had two objectives that are still ongoing. And one was to keep everybody in the agency safe. And the other was to make sure that we had a business that we could come back to when it was all over with. It was a stroke of genius, because it's just meant that even though we've had a whirlwind of a year where everything has changed and you kind of working in this quicksand economy, ultimately everybody in the business has known exactly where we're at and why things are happening. So month one, so March into April last year, we saw huge amounts of challenge in our business, because all of the projects that we were working on, all of the plans that our clients have been asking us to support them with, just stopped overnight. But we were very fortunate that we had a number of clients who fell into that kind of key worker part of the economy. And so our business basically went from being fairly well balanced to literally half of our clients shutting up shop and spending absolutely nothing, to the other half of our clients accelerating everything that we're doing, needing everything overnight, feeling that you were, as a really small agency, feeling that you were part of this national effort, because we work with ASDA, for example, and we were supporting them with some really critical recruitment communications around scaling the business very quickly. You remember a year ago, there was no toilet rolls on the shelves, there was no pasta, there was no passata. I mean, I don't know what people thought was going to happen, but we felt as though we could do a critical, we could play our part in making sure that, we could help ASDA to kind of ramp up and do the things that it needed to do. Only a very small part, but it felt useful. And I think that was really critical for everyone in our business to be able to see that we still had a relevance and a use, and what we were doing was important, and that we could kind of hold ourselves together, and we could move on. So I think that was that was, once we got over the shock, we then had a look at the situation, and we thought, well, this is the only time in our lifetimes when the whole world is going to be facing the same problem. And we started to understand that it was a bit of almost like a bit of a laboratory scenario. What was going to happen with employer brand in this situation whereby everybody was facing the same challenge, because we knew that organizations would all respond to it in a different way. And so we were quite interested to start to think about, how do those businesses that thrive as a result or throughout this process, what makes them different from other organizations that don't do so well? So we set up a think tank in LinkedIn. It's a group called Think Tank. So you can join, anybody can join. And we have been doing lots of monitoring across social media, across news. We've built, all sorts of little spiders and tools. And we've been gathering data throughout the last 12 months. And we are just starting to publish the initial findings of that. And the idea was that we would start to write a bit of a playbook for employer branding for the future. And already, we're having lots of conversations with clients that are saying, okay, well, we used to be known for being quite flexible, but now everybody's flexible, everybody can work from home. So that's not our USP. We used to be known for having the best offices in Leeds or in London or wherever, but that's kind of not relevant anymore. So what do we anchor our recruitment messages around, or how do we make our people feel the difference? Learning and development, we're seeing a huge amount of skills transfer pieces. So within a number of our clients, they will change and transform as a result of everything that's gone on. That was already happening, but it's the acceleration effect. But it's not that they suddenly need to get rid of lots of heads or people out of their organizations, but they do need skills in different ways. And so how do you bring those people on that journey and create career paths that are slightly unusual or wouldn't have been in place before the pandemic hit? So loads of really interesting sort of themes that we were picking up on early on. And as I say, we're just at the stage now where we're getting ready to share some of that, because our clients for the whole of this year so far, all of the incoming has just been about, right, we're getting ready and we're not going to go back to how it was. It's going to be new. We're really focused on it. What can we do? What's it look like? How do we get ahead of the game? So yeah, just really challenging to live through it. Really, really challenging to run a business through COVID, especially a business of our size, where you're a tiny boat in a huge ocean, and it's felt like that at times. But actually, I think just really exciting. So many great opportunities coming off the back of it.
Amazing. It just sounds like there's been so much for you guys to learn and be able to take from, to really be able to put a positive spin on this and think, right, okay, well, we can utilize this to learn. What can we gather? What information can we gather? What research can we do that we can apply and use to accelerate moving forward? Sounds really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've got to be a special person to get excited about insight, but it does it for me. I know different things do it for different people, but yeah, for us, we just really believe that everybody has talent, and organizations can only be successful if they work out how to get the best from that talent. Yeah. So we like to be on those journeys. We're not the people, I mean, obviously you guys are working with organizations around learning and development and coaching and all of those things. Our role would be to really bring that to life, to connect people to it, to help them understand where they fit, what's important for their role, and what the vision is moving forward. But there's definitely now a clearer sense of where those forward-thinking organizations are, because you can see it. We've just been through a pandemic, and it's sorted the wheat from the chaff. We know we can see those organizations that have thrived, and we know those that have survived or haven't survived or are barely surviving. And so it's no longer a question of should we do things differently? Should we look at things differently? It's now a case of do or die. And, I think that's the challenge that's really exciting for all of us that are working in that kind of HR and talent space.
Amazing. Fantastic. So what about the team, Paul? How have the team adapted and coped with the last year?
This is where I'm always like, if I talk about the team, I feel like a broody dad. Like I just get really misty-eyed and a bit wobbly-chinned. So I suppose they would see me as somebody that's quite hard driving. So we've always wanted there to be a really high standard at Chatter. and what we deliver to our clients is us. So what we do has got to be great. It's got to be good value for money. It's got to be innovative. It's got to be fresh, creative. So there's always been a very high standard, and we are quite hard driving as an organisation. But we're a very family orientated business. So we are quite a paternalistic agency, and we all care about each other. And I think that the feedback, we've done a few things. So I'll talk about what sort of happened. But recently we've done 3 focus group sessions with the team, so kind of workshop, virtual Zoomy type calls, where we've talked about all the things that we've learned as a team, what's better now than it was going into COVID, and what do we want to hang on to moving forward. But importantly, what do we want this agency to be like when we all come back and it's firing on all cylinders? But overall, I'm just really so proud of the people that I work with, because I think that everybody's been put to the test, and our team have just come up trumps, like day after day, week after week, month after month. Nobody's moaned, nobody's groaned, nobody's questioned. We've just all pulled together and got on. And one of the things that we pulled out was that actually we're much better as a team from an efficiency perspective and from a productivity perspective when we don't have enough time to do the things that we need to do. Because if we have a little bit of time, we're all big personalities, we're all a bit creative, and we start kind of causing a mischief for one another. So we've gone through our ups and downs. We have unfortunately reshaped the team. So we did do some furlough. But it's quite difficult because we're a small team. We had clients that were very busy. It was quite difficult to kind of manage all of that and still provide what you wanted to provide for our clients. We did reshape the organization. So we lost 3 people, unfortunately, from the team, but we worked really hard to use our own network to put a bit of an outplacement process in place, and some support from our amazing clients that, we kind of chatted to and said, what's the best way to do this? And we had all sorts of offers around career coaching and some of the things that they could help us out with, which was amazing. And all 3 of those people have found new roles, which, given where we're at, just so pleased and happy, and they're going on to do great things. We're still working together with some of them. We're still, in touch with all of them. So that's good. And then the thing that we've really worked on is formation. So as a team, we tend to want to get involved in everything, all of us.
Yeah.
And, I used to say we could sometimes be a bit like teenage boys playing football. We'd all just run after the ball. And because we've had to work separately, and because we've had to think about the way that we communicate, we found some more formation, and we found, sort of better ways of supporting one another, and me particularly, staying out of stuff that I just don't need to meddle in. It's hard. You set your own business up, you care about it, you love it. It's very difficult to take a step back and trust, allow, and empower other people to do it. But actually, if you can manage yourself to do that, they will take it on and do a much better job without you than they can if you're meddling. And I suppose my learning has been there's a balance of that. So what I'm trying to do is to think ahead and think about what are some of the challenges that are coming up on a particular account or a particular project, and starting to do some work on the background so that I can then help and support them, as opposed to sort of, it's thrown up last minute and I kind of get in and take over. So yeah, there's been loads of really positive stuff. And as I say, I'm just so proud of the team that I work with. They're absolutely amazing. They're doing an amazing job. We've got some stuff planned to thank them as part of our 10th year, our 10th anniversary. And I'm really looking forward to, getting the pressure off a little bit and just spending a bit of time together when we can, and, reconnecting. And that sounds very American, but, just sort of going for a beer and catching up and sort of remembering that we can have some fun as well as do some great work.
Definitely. So what about you as a leader? And I know you mentioned that there are two more of you, so you're a team of 3 who lead the company. And what about you as leaders? What adaptations have you guys had to make? And I guess what have you learned about your leadership style?
So I think we've all got an inbuilt sense of leadership, and if you lead in that way, and all 3 of us do lead we don't read books about leadership, and we don't go to conferences and really consider it in terms of our personal style. So you're then left in a situation where the context has to be right for your style of leadership. And I would say that over the past 12 months, my style of leadership has fitted really well for a pandemic. I am I am one of those leaders that likes to go in and fix things, and that I like to see, this is a problem, we need to sort it out, what needs to be sorted out, right, let's put it all together, let's run it as a project, done. So that's my style of leadership. It's worked really well. My colleague is a much more she's got a much more intuitive human touch to the way that she leads, and I would say that people in the team are really inspired by her, and they follow her, and that's a really great quality to have. And then my other colleague is he's an expert, he's a digital expert, so that's a different style of leadership again, because that's really about people needing that level of expertise and credibility and kudos. So between the 3 of us, we kind of have got it somewhere, this perfect sort of leader. But I think that one of the things that we've been able to do is recognize that in one another. And so we agreed that I needed to take the lead over the next 12, 18 months, get us back on track, make sure that we had a good plan in place, make sure that everybody understood what we were doing and what was important, what wasn't important, and keep us on focus, which we've done. And now that we've done that, I recognize that my leadership style, it needs to change, because I need to keep hold of that team. I need to, kind of really be just as inspiring, and to be just as open, and to, facilitate how that team grows and develops. It's just really tough. I think leadership is it's a very tough nut to crack. I'm not sure that you ever really do it. I think that one of the things that's really important that COVID's allowed us all to do is to be a bit vulnerable. And I think as leaders, you think that you've got to be leading, and ultimately that usually comes across as people think that you're always right, or you think you're always right, and you don't want to be challenged. And it's not. It's just that your job is to try and lead this business through. And I think having that opportunity to sort of just show a bit of vulnerability, show a bit of a human side is really important. And I know that I need to work on my style. It's one of the things that I've got on my list over the next sort of 6 months. I need to be working on my style to think about, how do we settle people down? We've come out of that phase of sort of rescue and recovery and thinking about how we're going to survive. We've come out a strong business, and we know we've got a really strong proposition. I now need to give people the confidence in what we're doing and where we're going. So it's slightly different. I think the key thing is you've got to see it. You've got to see leadership as a challenge that you'll always work on, because you'll never get it right. Don't hold I've learned, don't hold yourself or try to go for perfection. It's always about progress. And I think that if you see it as a skill that you're gonna work on throughout your entire life, I think that you'd be a better leader.
Brilliant. So I guess with everything that you guys have certainly, sounds like you've learned so much, and you've applied what you've learned, and you're constantly striving to take care of the team. How can we move forward and keep accelerating? Of everything that you've experienced and learned over the course of the last 12 months, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would have done differently or done sooner?
I think our situation was sort of a perfect storm really going into COVID, because people forget this, I suppose, but just before COVID, we'd had all of the Brexit angst. And so the economy was on a really uncertain footing in the lead up to the pandemic. And I think that we should probably, the stuff that we did in COVID was probably as a result of grappling with how things were changing in the business as a result of what was going on with Brexit. So we were actually in a really great place to say, right, okay, we're ready now. Let's make these decisions and move on. So I think in the end, we've done okay as a result of that. I just really hope that economically, the country and the government can really prioritise the economic stability of the country. They can really commit to this levelling up that they talk about, and I don't want to get too political because I'm quite political, but I really think that one of the things that we've seen is not really about business, is it? It's about society and community, and as employers, we have a direct impact on that, because we have a direct impact on how much people earn, how much people work, what stress they're under at work, whether we care about their health and well-being. But the economy's got to be right for us to be able to deliver on those things, because ultimately what I know is that if there's uncertainty in what your revenue looks like, or what the business looks like, you aren't able to prioritize all of those things that you do need to prioritize. And so I think looking back, I think we've done a good job. I'm proud of what we did. It was really tough. We had to make some horrible decisions, but that's what having a business is all about. And you shouldn't really have a business unless you're prepared to do that. But nonetheless, there was lots of sleepless nights, and there was lots of attention to detail to make sure that we got it right for our people, particularly those tough decisions that we made. But and I think getting it right means that you win, you keep the goodwill of the people that you work together. I think the big challenge for people now is going to be coming out of this. Everybody's going to be looking at things differently. People are going to be much more mobile with their career. If you don't travel into work every day and you don't see those same people every day and you're just sitting in your own house, you could do that job for anybody. And that risk factor of moving isn't as big as it was. I think we're going to see a hugely transient workforce population over the next sort of 18 months as a result.
I find it really interesting. If you think you've just opened yourself up to pools of talent absolutely anywhere, we no longer have to look at the market as we did in terms of talent, and the world is literally your oyster. It's really, really interesting. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean that's that there are opportunities in that, and there are threats in that, and it's back to the beginning of the conversation. It's about how optimistic you are and how positive you are, and how you take the opportunities forward. And you've just got to accept that it won't be, if people leave your organization, it's not going to be a reflection on you and what you have done. It's a reflection of what's happening now in the country at large. And I think everybody's ready for a change, whatever that means for them. Yeah. But I don't think people are scared of change. I think people are ready for a change, because 10 years of austerity, 4 years of Brexit, probably we'll end up with 2 years of pandemic. It's not been a bundle of laughs, has it? I was reflecting with some of my friends' kids that are going to university. I was thinking about when I went to uni, which was the late 90s, we had not a care in the world, literally not a care in the world. All you needed to worry about was, did you have enough beer that weekend? That was it. And, and I think it's the level of stress in society has just got a bit much, hasn't it? And we've got to, as leaders, like us in very small businesses right up to very prolific leaders, we've got to find a way of creating vision and optimism for people, because otherwise it's going to be a long, hard slog for another 10 years.
Absolutely. So for you guys, what would you say has been the biggest win? If you're going to say, out of all of this, the ups and the downs we've had, some really tough times, some big challenges that we've overcome, but you know, we can come out of this and say, for us, this was a really big win. What would that be?
It's definitely clarity. So being very clear about who we are as an organization, what we do, who we do that with, and how we do it. You know, because you know, I suppose where we are in our sort of cycle. So we're 10 years in. So we've gone through that kind of, you know, 3 spurts of growth, which a lot of smaller businesses go through. And then you're wrangling with, okay, where's the next step, and what do we do next? And when you're doing that, you're having lots of discussions, but you're not always making progress. And so I think that when COVID hit, I think for us, and probably for every other business, all of that background noise and confusion just fell away, and you know it inside you, what you should be doing, and what's going to make you successful, and what's going to make it enjoyable, and what's important, you know, and things like your values as an organization, you know, they come through. Do you live your values? Do you really deliver on them? So I think that was our biggest learning. And then I think the other things were just verification or validation, I suppose, about the way that we've done business all the way through. So building those client relationships, investing in our networks, you know, making sure that we treated people who work with us, not just as employees, but as, you know, people that we freelance, that we bring in from time to time, that, you know, that actually we've got a great relationship with those people. So you know, we haven't used our offices for over 12 months, but we've continued to pay our rent. You know, we've continued to do all of those things because we've got a relationship with our landlord, and you know, we know that if we all stop paying our rent, that's going to be a really difficult situation for him. So I think that taking your place in, you know, in society and saying, well, it's tough, but it's tough for all of us, and if we can all sort of help each other out, we'll get through it together. And that hadn't been the case, had it, in, you know, in what was going on in business or wherever else. And so it was just nice to be part of that whole national sense, global sense of, like, you know, we're a tiny cog, but if we do the right thing, we can come out of this feeling proud, whatever happens.
Yeah, definitely. It's that sense of responsibility that I think we've all taken, haven't we? And that sense of community, no matter how far and wide that now spreads, it seems to be a positive that has certainly come out of all of this.
Yeah, it's much nicer, isn't it? You know, when people are open. I mean, I have spoken to some other businesses about their experiences, and some are still giving you the whole sales bit. Oh, it's been brilliant. We've doubled our turnover. We've done this, that, and the other. And, you know, if they've done it, then that's absolutely brilliant. And I'm really pleased for them. But I think now's the moment for us to put all of that kind of, all that hype to one side, and to, back to that whole vulnerability thing, you know, like, you're not invincible. And when none of us are islands, like, one of the things, you get locked away. Well, what is it we've all missed the most? You know, what we've missed the most is human contact and being able to have the freedom to see your friends and your family. And, you know, and so really that's what life's about. And if we can incorporate earning money and running a business and doing meaningful things for our work as part of that, great, but we shouldn't be doing it instead of that.
Definitely. So what does the future look like for you guys?
Well, I mean, if the last 3 months are anything to go by, it's going to be really busy. So I sound like I'm doing a sales spiel, but no, definitely the last 3 months have been absolutely crazy. And what we're seeing is a huge amount of interest in the whole concept of employer brand. So 10 years ago, me and my 2 business partners sat down and started planning what this agency was going to be. And we set the agency up on the basis that if you treat your people right as an employer, they'll look after you by looking after your customers, and everything else will look after itself. So that was the whole thing. And And in order to get into those conversations, we might have to do like 3 months worth of discussions to explain the concept and to talk about it, you know, what was employer brand, where could it have an impact? Wasn't that just about like, you know, your career site and your advertising? Whereas now we're getting incoming, so we're getting a lot of HR teams that are in contact with us. We're getting marketing teams that are in contact with us, and they are being asked by their board to find out what needs to happen in order to make sure that their employees have an absolutely outstanding experience working for them. And that's across lots of different areas. So it's pay and benefits, reward and recognition, learning and development. What's the culture like? What are the leadership and management behaviors like? Is there a great vision that everybody can hook into? So they want to make sure that experience is great. They want to understand where it's not so good so they can do something about it. And they want to be able to talk about those experiences externally and with their own people as part of marketing themselves as a really great place to work. And most of those people on the C-suite don't even know our industry exists. They're not really aware that there is this kind of little group of people that are working away on employer branding. And so it's lovely to get into a room with them and have a discussion. And they're like, oh God, this is exactly what we've been thinking. And I can't believe that that's what you do. So I think that it's going to be really busy. And I think that the demand for what we do is going to only increase because skills in areas like tech, finance, healthcare they were running short before we went into COVID. Most of our clients have delivered their 5-year digital plan over the past 12 months. So the acceleration in things like online retailing and all sorts of digital platforms has massively accelerated. And every organization now is considering themselves to be a digital and tech organization, but there isn't the supply of talent. But then there's great opportunity because suddenly you don't need to have your digital team working in Leeds or able to get to Leeds or able to get to London. You can find those people all over the world, and that can add a new dynamic as well because you've got different time zones. So you could have your production team based in, you know, Australia, New Zealand, and your planning team based in the UK. So plans are done, over to the production team, gets done overnight, you come back to the work done. So there's some really amazing opportunities. And all of the briefs that we're getting are just really exciting. It's all the stuff that we want to get into. So yeah, I think it's going to be great.
And what are you guys looking forward to the most in this new normal that we're about to sort of emerge into? What do you think you guys are looking forward to the most?
I think a lot of the stuff that we're looking forward to is the ways of working stuff that's changed. So we're looking forward to having the freedom not to have to do the daily commute. We're looking forward to continuing to have flexibility around where we work and when we work. We are all looking, and this is the best news, isn't it? We're all looking forward to getting together and actually spending a bit of time together. We've missed one another. It's not the same when you're working separately. We have lots of technology to enable it. But we're a creative business, and creativity is about the connections and the conversations and the things that sort of go on in the background that just spiral off and create really cool ideas. So I think definitely the thing we're looking forward to the most is getting together and having a good meal, a few drinks, a bit of dad dancing, and just enjoying having some time together. And then I think that I think that everybody, regardless of whether you are a leader, whether you are somebody that works in creative or in digital, I think everybody has realized new things about themselves, about what they're capable of, about how resilient they can be. As I said, about the things that are important to their role and to their life. There's an openness that I think we've always had quite an open culture, but that's me saying it as the person that is one of the owners of the business. I'm sure that everybody feels that there's that level of openness, but I think that's only getting better. So yeah, I think there's so much to look forward to, but I think the main thing is going to be around getting everyone back together and having that opportunity to just have some fun and take some time out and then make the most of the opportunities that are coming our way as we get back to work.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It sounds like there's so many positive things coming your way, and it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you this afternoon. So I could quite easily chat all afternoon about anything like this, about employer branding, but absolutely. But thank you so much, Polly. It's been so useful, and I say sharing these experiences, and anything that anyone can take away from this is, that's what we're really passionate about spreading the word, the positivity and the learning experiences. So thank you ever so much. We really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it too.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.